Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Conversations with Cybersecurity. And this evening, I have Aashtha Sahni as my first guest. Aashtha, please introduce yourself and say hello to everyone.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Cybersecurity, for inviting me today for this particular session, and I'm really excited. So, hi, all. I am Aashtha Sahni. I currently work as a lead cybersecurity instructor at Flatiron School, including my job. So, currently, I work for various cyber communities, which includes OWASP Women in AppSec, and InfoSec Girls. And this year only, I started a very small initiative of mine, which is known as Cyber Preserve. Through that, I share YouTube videos which are based on cyber awareness and education. And along with that, I run a small cyber mentorship program which help individuals transition into cybersecurity without any hassle, without any doubts, because I guide them throughout the journey of their transition for like 3 months. And yeah, this is it from me. Thank you so much.
Wow, that is wonderful leadership. That is fantastic. I love that you're helping other people transition, and in doing so, you're building your brand and also contributing to the community. This is absolutely wonderful. So, what topics do you want to talk about today?
Um, I have two topics in mind currently, and the major one is around cyber communities. So over the period of last few years, cyber communities and their numbers they have grown across the globe. So multiple countries, multiple states, we have a lot of communities growing.
Mhm.
Now, the problem which I see is a lot of individuals with whom I connect on professional networks like LinkedIn, and when they talk about cybersecurity and they wish to transition, when I mention them about we have communities, they are nonprofits, you can join them, volunteer, learn through them,
Mhm.
and they are completely blank. They do not know.
Mhm.
So the challenge which I'm seeing currently is that we have communities in big numbers, but we are not reaching the right audience. So how can we make that right? Like we are reaching the right amount of individuals so that they are aware. So it's about awareing individuals about the power of communities, that how important cyber communities are and how these communities can help them build a career out of it,
Mhm.
especially in cyber.
Mhm. Well, I believe that you are doing the right thing. So, the same trouble that you have reaching people, I myself have the same kinds of trouble, which is why I developed this show. It's a lot of it is branding, getting your name out there. It does take time. So I don't know how long you've been doing this. So if you think about in my case, 7, 8 years, and just now, I would say last 2, 3 years, this whole concept that leadership is important, people are important, are finally getting into people's heads. Before that, it was all about technology, even though I have been talking about people from the very beginning. I've been talking about people, layered security, and all these things, governance, all of these things since 2005 or so. But I wasn't as loud a voice and I didn't know enough about technology. In other words, I hadn't mastered this marketing concept. So one of the things that I've been doing, I would say in the last 5 years or so, is I have like almost exploded my marketing content and things like that, and particularly this year. So this whole conversation series started about April of this year, mainly because of COVID, and there was a lot of things that I was doing, and I retrenched a little bit. I didn't want to do a lot of those things, and actually, I was talking with Ken, where I was making tons and tons of money for other institutions, but in the meantime, my own work was being neglected. My book wasn't getting published. In other words, my book wasn't getting finished, and a whole lot. So these are the things you have to figure out what works and how you can produce content to get it out. So the fact that you're producing videos and creating content, I think that is fantastic. That's how you do build a community. I believe that these videos are helping, and
Mhm.
slowly I'm getting cited in various places. That helps. I think you can also share other people's knowledge, so it doesn't necessarily have to be your own knowledge.
Yeah.
If there is a video of mine that you liked or something like that, write reviews and things like that. I don't know if you looked at my recent book, this Bring Inner Greatness Out. In this book, I talk about what is called cross brand promotion. So the fact that you're even coming on this show is actually an example of cross brand promotion. And that creation of this 15-minute video that you will be doing with me, that will help both of us. You see,
Right.
this is the kind of content that you need to keep creating. And I guess that you're already doing that.
Yeah, but I feel the gap. There's a gap between me reaching out the right audience and right audience reaching out to me.
Hmm.
But I totally get it. Like it will take some time and probably some hit and trial methods about how to reach right kind of peoples. And definitely marketing is something which is really, really required nowadays, so that definitely we are reaching right audience so that they should know what amount of work has be like various people are doing, how they can be part of it and in what ways. And especially this is the challenge I'm facing personally also,
Hmm.
and with other communities also, where I have seen people, they don't know about them,
Hmm.
and somehow they are struggling in their own small world due to, yes, lack of awareness.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, the other thing that often happens is the mission is not often clear, particularly if you're doing multiple communities or multiple organizations, then people get even more confused. So I talk a little bit about that also. Sometimes it is important to focus. For example, even though there's a whole bunch of things that I can talk about, I don't. I focus on people leadership, people leadership. This is all I talk about.
Right.
So sometimes that is the key also, so that people start to associate a particular concept or topic with you.
Okay, so it's like how they can relate. So
Exactly.
if the representation is clear, the same information is going towards them, and that's how they relate. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Also, a unique message about that particular mission.
Right.
Like, for example, I have developed this leadership model concepts borrowed from a whole bunch of literature. A lot of the literature is pretty established literature, but what I've done is I have rebranded it into the field of cybersecurity. So these are the things that can also help.
Right, right,
Like,
right.
what is your niche? What is your message? And that message must be clear. So think about any company branding. You see, a company has to have a very clear mission, and certain things have to be associated with that brand. You'll have to figure out what is the brand that you want to associate with your name, Aashtha Sahni. Remember, it's you that's going to be the branded, not the organization. So this is another thing that you probably are realizing now. Nobody cares about organizations anymore.
Yeah.
They care about people.
Personal branding.
Personal branding.
Yeah.
Yes.
Got your point.
Yes. We need to know what you stand for
Yeah, that makes a lot more sense.
so that moment you go to any company, you will actually impart value to that company.
Right.
People will go to that company because of you. Yeah, that's what's happening today.
But yes, true. We are influenced by individuals, and through that, for example, if I know an XYZ person and they are working in so and so company,
Mhm.
and it's happening somehow when I've heard a person's name and I search them on LinkedIn, and then
Mhm.
I get to know about the company. So the next time when I hear about the company, that person's name will appear in my mind. Oh, that person works there. That's how I know. So yeah, that's quite relatable.
Not only that, actually, nowadays, the way it's going on, if that person actually leaves the company for whatever reason, the company actually goes down in value. And that is also happening. I was just talking about that.
Oh. And
Okay,
I can
because,
think of it. I'm thinking about it, and yeah, it does make sense.
yes, for example, the program that I was associated with has
Mm-hmm.
shrunk dramatically in 1 year since I left, right?
Oh.
The
Yeah,
university itself has shrunk about 33%
right.
because the brand of a human being, somebody who has a strong brand, actually imparts value and credibility to a program.
Right, right. And that's how it is. Like I just remember in my childhood also, like whenever you want to join some institute, maybe some dance classes. So you look
Yes.
for people who are famous, who have their name.
There you
That's
go.
how you join. That's how you join them. If they are not taking it and some XYZ person is there and you'll be like, no, I want to learn from that person only. And that's how it is.
That's exactly the way it is, especially in this field, cybersecurity. There are very few people that actually know it, and there's a whole bunch of pretenders out there.
That is true. That
Right.
is true.
And they're using all kinds of nonsensical definitions and everything. They're even using wrong spellings of the word.
And what do you suggest? Like, if 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 for example me, I'm looking towards building strong leadership,
Hmm.
and what do you suggest? Because I know marketing is important, but
Hmm.
I think knowledge is also important. As you mentioned, a lot of people, they're just using marketing, they're using a lot of marketing, but there is very less content and knowledge they have around cybersecurity. So how to overcome these things, and somehow you can see it all over the social media, and then you realize that what am I doing? How should I make an impact in people's life in a right manner?
Right. So there are a couple of ways. If you yourself are not an expert, then what you have to do is surround yourself with experts. I believe that if you notice Veronica Rose in Kenya, she's doing a little bit of that. She is an expert in her own right, but she's also bringing a lot of experts constantly. She's doing 15-minute videos with these interesting people.
And one more thing which I want to ask is,
Hmm.
since we have a lot of communities,
Hmm.
and initially it started off with different sessions, like individuals are coming to communities as volunteers, they are providing sessions on so and so topics. So now YouTube and all of the medias, they are filled with videos, repetitive videos,
Yep.
to how to generate a meaningful content, because those have become, I think, redundant.
Yes. So this is another thing about videos. The videos need to be short, they need to be interactive, they need to be lively. So I don't know if my shows are a model. One of the things that I realized as I watched other people is that even when you bring a single expert, having that expert talk about anything for 1 hour becomes very boring in a video format, and people will lose interest. Plus, when you bring in the speakers, if they're not professional quality speakers, then the video quality becomes poor. For example, if a person is going every sentence,
Yeah.
that's going to sound very unprofessional, and that's going to detract on the quality of the message. So once again, if you're going to produce the videos and if the person is not able to speak clearly or without this ooh, ah, and all these defects, then you'll have to do a lot of editing to get rid of that. In other words, the quality of the videos has to be very strong. Then you're going to break through it. So the quality matters.
And what about the content?
Content matters, but in the content, it needs to be more entertainment also. So you have to never forget about the entertainment value. Part of the reason that I like to make this thing so interactive is because I believe that each guest kind of livens the episode. And I don't create the content. In essentially, notice that my guests are creating the content. I had no idea what you were going to talk about, but we started chatting, and so far it's been a pretty amazing, lively discussion.
Right, right.
These kinds of discussions will get your brand known. Now people will be interested in maybe exploring your work and the things that you have. So you use the videos to draw people into the brand. But then hopefully you can upsell or do other things with the actual content where maybe you're selling ads or whatever. So you have to create this content on YouTube. You have to get up to 1,000 subscribers before you can start making any money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Once again, it's all about content and getting subscribers.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm getting that. This really helps. Thank you so much. Yeah. This makes a lot more sense now to me.
Okay, well, great. So if you don't have any other questions, I'm going to. This was a fantastic conversation. I really appreciate you coming on and chatting with me, Asta.
No, I really do appreciate that. I have one more small question,
Please.
and that would require your expert advice only. A lot of people whom I mentor, who are my mentees,
Mhm.
they really feel stuck while they are learning. So basically, in my mentorship program, I create some foundational courses for them so that they learn cyber, like what it is, what are the basics around AppSec, what are the basics around networks and audit, so that they understand the crux, so
Mhm.
that they can move forward towards different jobs and building like doing certifications or maybe joining different domains. So one thing which I've seen is they feel stuck in between the process. So it's like if they have a 3 months mentorship program,
Mhm.
in between they are lost. Suddenly they start fearing, they fear a lot, and then they feel like, oh my god, it's overwhelming. And it's got to be overwhelming because you have some period of limited period of time and you have to learn things, but at the same time I feel they are stuck and then they are completely lost. So how to help individuals to keep on track while they are learning, how to make them realize that cyber is a constantly learning field, and you have to put on some efforts in order to learn it, excel in it.
Yes, that is true. However, we always need to remember that every human being is an individual. They are unique. And no two people are going to learn exactly the same way. So, for a teacher, it is also very important to understand each student and what is it so special about that particular student. Cybersecurity is broad and huge.
Right.
So while you want to give people the depth and breadth of the field, you also want to find out what aspect of this field they're most excited about. Is it the policy aspect? Is it the people aspect? Is it the penetration testing aspect? Is it the forensic aspect? Is it the communications aspect? It is the marketing aspect. In other words, you really have to figure that out. I'll give you a good example. I'm coaching somebody in public speaking. She wants to be a great public speaker in cybersecurity. However, what is her inner strength already? I need to first find that out. What I found out is she has this incredible sense of humor. She can make fun and jokes about almost anything. So I told her the best way to build her brand would be to talk about cybersecurity in a humorous way. That would be natural for her.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm coaching her on. She's already done 2 videos during my coaching sessions. One is about passwords. It's actually out on YouTube. It is funny.
Oh, I
It's
must.
only 4 minutes long, but it's funny. So think about how some of the comedians talk about politics, right? They make fun about politics, but they're still talking about politics, right?
That's true, yeah. And that's
So
fun. That's entertaining.
exactly, and that is the niche. So if you are going to become famous, you have to figure out what exactly is your gig. How are you going to
That's
become
your
famous?
natural skill.
What is
Like,
your natural skill?
yeah, where
How are you
efforts
going to make it?
are less, yeah, and productivity is more. Yeah, I get that.
For example, Tomiko Evans, right? Her strength was poetry and music, cyber raps. So I coached her into opening cybersecurity presentations with raps and everything like that. So her brand became the cyber rapper.
Oh,
You see?
that is something interesting that I'm hearing today.
Yes, so this is why you need to read this book. If you're into personal branding, you really need to read this book, The Bring Inner Greatness Out about personal branding. You'll see some things in there that you're not going to see anywhere else. I've seen a lot of personal branding books. They just go into personal branding, but they never start talking about the why and then choosing that niche.
Yeah.
You see?
Yeah, that's interesting. I really love that.
Yeah.
I'm
Okay,
definitely
wonderful.
gonna check that. Thank you so much.
You're
Thank you so much.
welcome. Really had a great time chatting with you. And now I'm going to bring in Ken Underhill.
Hello, Dr. Hasib. How are you?
Wonderful, wonderful. Say hello to our guest, Ken.
Hello to the guests. So, for those that don't know who I am, I've got a background primarily in healthcare IT and security. I was also a pediatric nurse for a number of years as well before that. And create online courses. That's where most people know me from, that and LinkedIn as well. And I've got a podcast called Cyber Life, and I've got a TV show that was supposed to launch this past month, but it's launching actually in January now by the same name. It's called Cyber Life, and it's a real TV show. So it's actually going to be on like Roku and Fire Stick and all that stuff, just like watching Netflix. A lot of people have started calling it Kenflix.
Oh, wonderful,
Yes,
wonderful. Oh, I'm looking forward to that. This is amazing. So I can say I knew Ken before he became famous.
exactly.
That is wonderful. So, what do you want to talk about today, Ken?
So I want to ask some questions around. Some of these are questions I get pretty frequently. Some of them are around the pandemic. So let's just start off with let's. There's some people getting laid off out there, whether or not they have experience. Just people are getting laid off,
Hmm.
and so the question is more of, hey, I just lost my job. There's a pandemic going on. There's a lot of companies saying we're not going to hire. What should I do? Let's pretend that I haven't been branding myself. I haven't been focusing on social media and sharing my message or anything. I'm just somebody that's kind of off the radar. And now I'm scrambling. I'm like, I've got rent to pay or mortgage to pay. What should I do, Dr. Hasib, in that particular situation?
So this is basically the reason I freed up my time to finish this book about personal branding because I feel like this was the only thing that saved my life. The fact that I had branded myself and made myself independent of any institution and also developed multiple sources of income through the personal branding so that I can take charge of my own career, right? So this is the key thing because this is what has happened. Over the last 40 years, essentially job security has gone away. You've got a group of people, they don't even produce the money, but they're in charge of organizations. They don't bring in the revenue. They're not the revenue producers. You will see that in academia, for example, you got all these high level administrators. They never teach, but they earn incredible amounts of salary. Even the president's salaries in academia now are rivaling private industry. They're into the millions of dollars today. Are you going to tell me that a typical president actually generates that much revenue or productivity? Because in a capitalist society, you're supposed to earn according to your contribution. But that's not happening anymore. So therefore, they have to take control of their incomes and outcomes. They have to develop the brand. If they haven't started, I mean, nothing like now. That's why I wrote the book, and I even gave away free copies of that book for one day. Right, over several hundred people got that book for free. Then I gave it for $2.99 for an entire month of November. But if people don't, so this is something that Aashtha was talking about also, right? If people do not avail of the resources that we're providing to them, it's very hard to help people, right? People have to start helping themselves also. And they have to read. For example, people are trying to understand cybersecurity, but they still haven't read my book, Cybersecurity Leadership, where everything is explained in very basic terms. So, and they're even using wrong definitions, and they're paying all these universities $5,000 per course to learn junk that was created by some vendor. As you probably, we were talking about that. Right now, many universities, since they don't have cybersecurity subject matter experts running the programs, what do? They go to the various vendors, and they basically everybody has the same course developed by vendors. Vendors keep updating the course also, so they're fed by the vendors. And you might have a PhD in English running the entire cybersecurity program, and they're paying $5,000 per course for that. And yet they won't spend $20 to buy one of my books. I don't understand that. So, how can I help them? I can't. I also have this show for them to come, build a brand, talk about themselves. See, if they even did a 15-minute video on my show, that will probably give them some publicity, break through the noise, so that they can say, oh, I was on this show, or I have a video out there, and some people will take notice. As a matter of fact, it did happen. There were many people that came on my show, and as a result of that, somebody noticed them. I would say they should come and chat about their situation, make a video here. It's free, doesn't cost them anything, but they have to make that effort.
I think you actually brought up a really good point there. You have to at some point help yourself. You can't always rely on everyone else to give you every single answer to every single question. That being said, let me ask you another question.
All right.
So let's say that I'm international. Let's say, I don't know, I know Aashtha's from India. So let's say I'm from India right now and I want to get a job in some other country. And it doesn't matter what country,
Mhm.
but how do I sort of get started? Where should I look? How do I find maybe companies that are hiring internationally? Or should I go back to the personal branding aspect and focus on that? And then that might lead to things. So I'll kind of throw those ideas out there. But that's really the question. If I'm international someplace outside the US, or if I'm in the US and I want to work international, like how do I get started with something like that?
Again, a lot will depend on what niche, what exact slice that you want to work in, right? Because for whatever slice you want to work in, there could be a variety of ways. In some cases, there are even US companies that are international. So it all depends. If you're going to be a network engineer, well, you can probably start with some of the networking companies. They're global, right? So that's one way. But if you want to start with, say, GDPR or a policy or something, so again, what is your niche? And that will usually determine how you approach your job search. And I would say the same thing that I typically tell other people, which is that once you have defined your niche, who are the companies that are working in that niche? So instead of looking for a job, look for companies and identify a minimum of 30. Minimum of 30. Why? Because you're going to have to use your network to get to people in those 30 companies. And hopefully, out of those 30 companies, you may be able to get an in on one, two, three. So you're trying to multiply your chances. But again, not looking for jobs, because if you look for jobs blindly, the job that you're looking for may not even be advertised ever. It will only happen because you started a conversation with somebody trying to figure out about their company. So what they should do is, once they've identified the 30 or so companies, try to learn about those companies through some contact in those companies. Even if they don't have a contact, they might know somebody else who might have a contact. Like, go to Ken and see if Ken knows somebody in there, right? Or go to Dr. Hasib if you're connected with Dr. Hasib. Could somebody make an introduction to somebody in another company? These are the, I would say, use the power of the network. This is amazing what we have today. Oh my God, when I was looking for jobs and things like that, we didn't have any of this. So everything, the whole world is in people's fingertips right now.
I actually remember looking for jobs way back in the day in the newspaper. So
Yes.
I didn't have to look on like stone tablets way back in the day, like you, Dr. Hasib, but I had to look at the newspaper stuff. All right. So my final question is, is kind of going to what Astas was talking about with producing videos and stuff. So when someone's out there and they're looking, they read your book and they say, okay, I want to, I've got an idea of what I want to be known for.
Mhm.
How do they determine the right avenue, right? So whether it's videos on YouTube or online course or podcast or like some people a television show, like how do they determine the best avenue for them to pick to put their message out there and get the visibility that they need?
Well, if they want their message out there, so if they're going to be a speaker, one of the other things that I've also recommended to a lot of people, and you will, if you read the book, you will notice that there's a whole chapter on Toastmasters. Why is that? Because Toastmasters is what gave me my public speaking ability, this smooth delivery, the ability to pack a lot of information in 1 minute or 5 minutes. See, most Toastmasters speeches are 5 to 7 minutes. You have to pack a lot of information in an entertaining way with a nice, clear message in 5 to 7 minutes. We're also taught to listen. We're also taught to talk on the cuff for 1 to 2 minutes. Then we do evaluations of speeches in 2 to 3 minutes. I posted a speech done by one of our members named Oscar Zalamia today. Watch that speech and also watch a 3 minute evaluation of that speech that I did for him. I did that evaluation last night off the cuff, right? I heard his speech, gave the evaluation. So these are preparation skills. Public speaking skills are going to determine at least 50% of somebody's future income. If they're not able to articulate, give that elevator pitch properly, they will not break through the noise. So it's very important, because personal branding isn't about just branding and marketing. It's also about communicating with clarity and a message, and bringing your whole self to that message. So the message cannot be very dry and all that. I mean, your whole personality needs to come through. You see, your emotions need to come through. Your vocal variety needs to come through. Your facial expressions need to come through. We need to be energized by what you say. So they really have to invest in that. And Toastmasters is so cheap, it's unbelievable. An entire year, I think it costs like $120 or $140, some small number like that for an entire year of membership. And most clubs meet at least twice a month. Some do meet only once a month. So you pick the club that you want to be in. And in some clubs, you even get free coaching. Like our club, we decided that we are so passionate about helping people succeed that anybody who is a new member in our club, we will coach them in public speaking. So many people are learning through that. You have definitely seen like Aisha's speeches, right? Recently, you've seen Aisha's speech about the passwords, right?
Yep.
Well, that came through coaching, right? So you will watch a completely different Aisha in future.
You know, if she's watching right now, she's feeling a lot of pressure, I'm sure. I know her pretty well. She's
She's
probably
not
saying,
feeling
no,
pressure.
Dr. Hasib,
She
no.
she is in her own. She's coming on her own, because what I've done for her is helped her embrace her true self. You see, her true self is that humorous side. So she is in her element. If she tries to do a boring like speech that a 20, 30-year-old veteran in the industry might be doing with a whole bunch of PowerPoint slides, it's not going to be her, right? You should never try to make a presentation like somebody else would. You should make the presentation your way. Now, when she does these kinds of things, she will be famous. You watch it. Now, the way that Katia does it with her comics and everything, again, that's her personality. So she's letting that shine. You look at yourself also, right? You're not trying to be anybody else. You're trying to be yourself. And that's what needs to happen. So they have to do that training. The other thing about communications leadership is also listening, right? Listening is so important because too often a candidate will go to a job interview, but they're failing to listen. They're so anxious to talk about themselves, they often miss what is being asked of them. And that is also a skill because you should not ever be answering the question that was not asked. You should be answering specific to the question that was asked. And if you don't know the answer, you'll have to learn how to deflect without lying. Because most people will catch that too. Most often, I used to, if I didn't know the answer, I'd just simply say, I don't know the answer, but I would research it and come back to you or something like that. It has happened. Are there situations where somebody did not give me a job as a result of that? Probably, but that's okay. I don't want those jobs anyway. I don't want jobs where they're going to think that my honesty is actually not a virtue. Similarly, I've given jobs to people who were 100% honest with me. So you read my first book. There's a story about a person there, right? Who honestly told me we were her third choice. But I still hired her because she was so honest. And she became a star employee. What else?
That's all the questions I had.
All right, Ken. Well, this is great. Thank you very much for coming. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on.